Hello, Lorecrimes viewers. We are back at it again with a Fantasy Fireside, but this time there's a couple things different. First of all, you might notice the avatar. I'm, of course, Carl Franz, and his glorious regalia is still there. But it's not Andy. The Remembrancer is gone. With me, I have today Hal, the Amber King.
No one will remember the Remembrancer. I've taken him out.
He's forgotten. He's replaced.
He's currently on the end of my little wooden stick. He's the marshmallow. I have consumed him for more esoteric knowledge. I now remember everything.
It is the Haster, the King in Yellow, so I suppose that's only fitting.
True. Well, he's more, haunting / do something bad in your underwear kind of eldritch horror rather than knowledge.
Being a jerk, I will say, because it's still within the first minute of the video, and I can't use bigger words yet.
True.
But beyond that, this Fantasy Fireside is going to be a bit different, because today I'm going to be telling Hal, well, I guess a little bit of explanation. Hal, I know you're a little bit more familiar with fantasy than Andy is. Yeah.
I knew Warhammer Fantasy before I actually knew Warhammer 40k. I know that's a bit of a shock there for many people, and I really fell in love with it. End times. I knew the end times happened, the end crimes, and I was so upset. And I've honestly stayed away from Age of Sigmar for so long, but I know that they've been putting in the work in terms of making that world good, and so my body's ready. I'm ready to explore the setting that I've kind of, been against because it's not the old world.
Well said. And as Hal said, and as you can probably figure out because, videos have titles in them, we are not in the Warhammer fantasy world today. Today we're going to go over Age of Sigmar. So kind of like the first of these was, what's the basics of the Warhammer fantasy world? This is going to be a similar vein for Age of Sigmar. Granted, a little bit more broad. We'll not just be going over locations. I'll be going over the plot of the game, the mortal realms themselves, and the grand alliances, the faction groupings.
And I'm your victim.
and since Hal doesn't know much about the Age of Sigmar universe, it's his turn to have lore just vomited all over him.
Definitely. I'm ready, and I think the viewers we're just ready to hit us with it. Let's delve into the. Are they called mortal realms?
They're the mortal realms. Yes.
Oh damn! I was thinking of the Total War immortal empires. I can already feel that there's gonna. All right, I'll keep it. I'll keep it together.
Awesome trailer, but we have to move on. I can't get caught on the Total War trailer because I will.
I'll be Sag.
For those of you who only know it as that thing you ignore and instead play Total Warhammer, funnily enough, Age of Sigmar is the sequel to the Warhammer Fantasy universe and game. After, the end times happened, which, again, bad, very bad, Age of Sigmar was born to replace the old fantasy line. It replaced the rank and file, the square bases with circles, as they are in 40k, and kind of 40k-ified the setting in a couple of ways, which in some ways is bad. It's not as much of a cohesive single planet anymore, but in some ways is good. It allows for a lot more factions to be created, since functionally the mortal realms are infinite, and a lot more homebrew because, again, it's not a single planet. There's a lot more room for whatever you want. And while it's certainly not as well developed as fantasy was and 40k is, I don't think that's a issue with the setting, as it is the fact that Age of Sigmar launched in 2015, I believe, so it's only just about 8 years old now.
That really dates this podcast.
Yeah,
as soon as someone hears it.
Yeah, well, later down the line it'll date it, but for now.
Yeah, this is the modern day for us. So.
Yeah, this is. Sorry to all of you super future people watching this in 2045.
Shout out to my grandkids listening to this too. all 800 of you.
Good lord.
I'm joking. Let's do this. Let's do this.
All right. So, but yeah, it's come together as a setting, and I'd like to introduce some people to it. So let's go through the plot of Age of Sigmar first, which, as a spoiler, this is going to be most of the video telling you what's going on in AOS and the narrative and the plot, because that is what gets a lot of people into Warhammer. Like, what are these people? What are they doing? What are they about?
Very quickly, if imagine if you had like a very quick sentence here. Why should someone give this setting a chance? So just like very quickly, because obviously we're obviously trying to encourage people. Like I'm here, I'm with you, brother. I'm holding hands. But why now has it kind of turned around and you think it's the time to get into Age of Sigmar lore, just for the people who are listening?
At least from personal experience, I know that it's kind of been getting more popular lately. Like at my local GW, the manager was talking about how a whole bunch more people have recently gotten into the game, so it's kind of blowing up. And something I do firmly believe is that I do think most of Games Workshop's creativity right now is going into Age of Sigmar.
And the models too, definitely.
The models are phenomenal.
Oh, Lord.
And 40K's kind of gotten to a point where it has its established setting, and veering away from that is very difficult, if not almost impossible.
Grimdark has to be grimdark.
Yeah, at least in my opinion. But AOS is new, so it's still kind of forming in a couple different ways.
Also, it's it's an exciting time now. Like we're witnessing the cohesion. Is that the right word? The kind of coalescence of this setting into its identity.
Yeah, like it's only
awesome.
in its third edition right now, which I think launched last year or the year before.
I'm ready. I'm in now. I'm ready. Let's do it.
Yeah. And just one other thing, it's much like 40K as science fiction on steroids. AOS is fantasy on steroids. So if you like massive scale, Titanic everything, Age of Sigmar has you covered. So, with that being said, I need to disappoint everyone, because to talk about Age of Sigmar, I need to bring up the end times.
Oh, pain.
So, for those of you who don't know what the end times were, the Warhammer Fantasy range as a whole was selling less than individual armies in 40K. And I think Paint was outselling Warhammer Fantasy, which hurts.
Oof.
So Games Workshop decided things had to be shaken up, and the way they did this was blow up the setting.
That's one way to do it.
Yeah. That being said, a lot of races, factions, and whatnot from the end times, the old fantasy world, actually survived. The Skaven just kind of teleported their capital city into the warp. The Lizardmen, their fancy, Aztec, Inca, Maya, mishmash pyramids, were actually spaceships. So when the Skaven were blowing up the Chaos Moon and causing all the fragments to land on Lustria, or at least a decent chunk of them were landing there and invading the Lizardmen, they declared that the plan had failed. They got into their spaceships and just left the planet. And most importantly of all, Sigmar, Heldenhammer, the titular god of Age of Sigmar, and Archaon, the Ever-Chosen of Chaos, Warhammer Fantasy Abaddon, for those who aren't too familiar with him.
Slightly more competent, though. Slightly more competent Abaddon or Abaddon?
I call him Abaddon, but however you want to say it.
He's Archaon, to me, his backstory is a little bit better as well. Let's be honest. They're better than Abaddon's.
Oh yeah.
100%. Even though I do have a slight confusion about his backstory, but I assume we might talk about him properly another time, but he's definitely he's a lot more competent, and I enjoy that about him.
Whether he's competent because Games Workshop just wanted the setting blown up, I'll leave that up to the viewers to decide their opinions on his competence.
True.
But he and Sigmar wrestled over Galmaraz, Sigmar's signature Warhammer, and indeed the Warhammer of Games Workshop that, if you ever look at their emblem, doesn't come from 40K. That would be good old Galmaraz on it. And in the city of Middenheim, as the warp was overtaking the planet, the realm of chaos, they wrestled over the hammer. And although Sigmar won, it was a hollow victory because the world was still ending all around them. The heroes of Order, as well as Nagash, who was also there trying to stop it, if only because he lives on the world, failed to stop it, and the Warhammer world was devoured by chaos.
We haven't mentioned the leech, the little scum that is Mr.
Manfred.
Manfred von Karstein. Oh man, it's annoying because he's such an enjoyable character, and that's the one like little piece that I just despise about him so much.
Unfortunately, that little piece is ending the setting.
He stabbed no, not Teclis. He stabbed Balthazar Gelt.
Balthazar Gelt.
I know that part, yeah.
Teclis tried to take his wind of magic into his body, and it was too much, and he exploded. And then the world exploded. But enough end times. It's time to get to Age of Sigmar, if only so I can stop talking about the end times.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
Yeah. So, while Sigmar 1, like I said, world implodes around him, but he attaches himself to the solid core of the Warhammer world, which proceeds to fly through the space and time that doesn't really exist anymore because chaos ate everything for untold amount of time until he ends up in what would become known as the realm of Azir in the mortal realms. And he meets this god beast, which are big old monsters that are called god beasts because they're very powerful. This one is known as the Stardrake Dracothian. And it's revealed through this and the end times, as it turns out, Warhammer worlds follow a cycle. Chaos will blow up one world, move on to the next, and then the survivors of the previous one usually become the new gods of the new setting. Things are nice for a while, then chaos shows up, they start making the world suck, and then eventually they blow it up and move on.
Does that mean, I have a very quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Does that when in the old world, when they refer to the old ones, was that perhaps a race that survived the previous epoch, if you know what I mean?
I don't believe that has ever been confirmed, but what has been confirmed is that some of the elven gods, so I know Assyrian and Cain, they were survivors of the last world.
Yo, that's kind of, I mean, I understand Cain, because he's just too, I like it, but Cain in Warhammer Fantasy is way better, man. Has to be said. He's so much more competent.
Yeah.
I enjoy that. That's really, man, that's pretty cool. I had no idea that they, is that a common theory, or is that like perhaps like there's a deep lore idea?
I think it's a decent amount of, it's not exactly like in universe or as far as like we would know it.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool, though, to be fair.
Yeah. So it's, I don't know if it's one of the more prominent things they've advertised, but it is something that's not like hidden away for the setting. So that happens, and he meets this guy, this Stardrake Dracothian, and Dracothian's sole job is to basically form the bedrock of reality. So when the gods of the new world, they come in and, kind of spice it up, but Dracothian gives it its formation. And either with his help or it was irrelevant of it, I couldn't find anything that confirmed it completely. The former 8 winds of magic from the Warhammer world formed the 8 mortal realms. And Sigmar, having been bound to the wind of heaven in the Warhammer fantasy world, became the god of the realm of Azir, the realm of heavens. The lizardmen, who in their spaceships, who had largely died out except for some Slann, also made it to Azir and became creatures of heaven. They became demons of order with pretty much the lightning of heaven running through their veins, which is so metal.
That's actually pretty... they have like the glowing woke eyes, but it's actually white instead of red.
Yeah. It's
nice.
They kind of flip-flop on it a bit. Like early on, they were all like demons of order. Now they've kind of changed a bit where some of them are, some of them aren't. They're just regular flesh and blood lizardmen. It's a little bit all over the place, but at least some of them are these crazy lightning demons that only form into lizardmen bodies when they lightning strike in front of a chaos warrior and cut his head off.
Did my boy Lord Croak, I'm on the edge of my seat, did he survive?
Oh, you better believe Lord Croak is still around.
That is...
I'll be getting to him.
He is Lizard Man Doom Guy, 100%, and no one can change my opinion on that. But he has magic instead.
Yeah,
I love
he's
him.
pretty sick, and thus forms the early ages of AOS, and this is known as the Age of Myth. Early on, Sigmar was kind of alone. Dracothian kind of, pissed off after he helped Sigmar out and helped Sigmar get his bearings. But Sigmar wasn't alone forever, because over time he came across some of the former people and gods he knew from the old world, freed them or recruited them from whatever they were doing, and they formed the new pantheon of gods of Age of Sigmar, of the Mortal Realms. And funnily enough, Nagash was first. Now, for those of you who don't know, Nagash, imagine a Warhammer Saturday cartoon villain. He has no redeeming qualities. He is the worst person ever. Just giant piece of shit.
Utterly selfish in literally in every regard.
I don't think he has anything redeeming about him. But very powerful. And early on in the Mortal Realms, they were a very dangerous place. There were a lot of beasties and nasty things crawling around. They weren't even chaos related, as chaos had yet to come into the planet. But they were still very dangerous.
Is that similar to like how before the old ones arrived in the old world, they were like dragon, ogre, shaggoths, like things, and obviously like dragons too. Like they just existed.
It's kind of like that. I actually hadn't made that parallel before, but yeah, it's kind of like that. How before the old ones came in, the Warhammer world was a lot more dangerous. It was kind of like that, only now it was Sigmar who had to deal with it. So for that reason, he frees Nagash because he needs the allies, and together they fought these horrible creatures. And I've even read that supposedly, maybe this is exaggeration, maybe it isn't, but some of the things they fought would have even given the Chaos Gods pause for thought on whether or not they wanted to fight.
Is that like again, reference to Old World? There was a dragon, ogre, shaggoth that Archaon did it. It was part of his quest to become ever chosen, and it was literally like the size of a mountain.
Yeah, like he was. I think you could confuse it for a mountain if you were far away from it, and even Archaon was like, "I'm not messing with that." Yeah, it's kind of like that.
It makes me wonder like where these creatures do come from, or if that's just like a natural. Like you know how like obviously I guess dinosaurs in our world, like back way back then they were bigger. More deadly. It's just a thing that happens.
Kind of something like that, because the mortal realms are all intrinsically magic, since they each formed from one of the 8 winds. So depending on where they're at, you get all these horrible, different, nasty creatures that aren't even chaos. They're just massively powerful creatures. Indeed, they're called god beasts for that reason.
Small question just from my head. How many realms are there? I know we're going to talk about them.
There are 8 main realms. There's a few sub-realms I'll bring up, but 8 main ones from each of the 8 winds of magic of the old Warhammer world.
Awesome.
So yeah, and like I said, these things would have given the Chaos Gods at least a little bit of pause for thought. So Sigmar and Nagash went on a rampage. He was the first. After that, he found more gods who either were already gods or had become gods through the end times. He found the old dwarf gods Grimnir and Grugni, bound by. They were bound to a mountain, and they refused to talk about what caused that to happen. They just didn't talk. They just didn't want to talk about it.
Too stubborn, huh?
They were too stubborn and too embarrassed. He freed them, and Grugni was like, "Hey, you know what? You did me a solid. Dwarfs are all about oaths and debts. I'm going to offer you my services." Grimnir, on the other hand, was like, "No, I'm repaying this debt right now. What am I going to kill?" So Sigmar told them to fight another god beast named Volcatrix, the mother of the salamanders, not the space marines, the mythical animal. And in a colossal duel, they killed each other. Grimnir shattered into pieces known as Urgold, and Volcatrix's corpse created volcanoes as well as those salamanders. In the realm of fire, this happened. So that's kind of like I was saying, it's fantasy on steroids. The pre-setting lore is a god shattering into pieces and creating volcanoes from the fight.
Damn. That must have been Grimnir or Grungi? Which one?
Grimnir is the one who shattered. Grugni's like the craftsman's god. Grimnir is the slayer god, the one who's all about fighting.
Oaths and man, that's pretty. So this is like the slayer god. literally got shattered, which must have been that's insane. Just
Yeah.
crazy. Man.
After them, Gorka Morka. Gork and Mork had fused, and somehow the fusion had gotten trapped in a giant blob of sentient amber. So Sigmar freed Gorka Morka, and then they immediately proceeded to beat the shit out of each other for days on end. And then at one point, you know how like when the Lion and Lehman Russ were doing that campaign and they fought?
Oh, yeah.
And Lehman Russ just starts laughing and the Lion knocks him out cold.
Because he's not having any of it.
Yeah. Imagine that, but it's two Lehman Russes and they both just realize the stupid fight they've been having and just start laughing.
So literally, but they were laughing the entire time as well.
Probably, yeah. Gorka Mork was having the time of his life, and Sigmar, God or not, was originally a barbarian king. So he was having plenty of fun, too. He was like, oh, I get to fight? This is... Hell yeah.
Is this inside a realm, or is this in like kind of...
This is in the realm of beasts.
So Sigmar's going to multiple... Kind of like Pokemon, he's collecting them all.
He's going across all the mortal realms and collecting the gods. And then Gorka Morka actually, for a little while, joins his pantheon as well, which I know orcs cooperating with others. Weird. But Gorka Morka was down with it at first, mostly because Sigmar would point at something and say, hey, that's a problem, go kill it. And then Gorka Morka would go and kill it. So that was his contribution. Next up, he found all of the elf gods. Tyrion and Teclis are back. They're now the gods of the realm Hysh, light. Tyrion was blind because he got into basically a staring contest with the sun.
Wait, what? Is that real?
Yeah. It was essentially the manifestation of Hysh's light, and since it's the realm of light, it's a very bright light. And Tyrion didn't want to puss out, so he refused to look away from her, and he was blind.
Now, I think I've asked this, but like way before, but how is Tyrion good with Teclis after he kind of, plotted to have his ever child, yeeted into the Nagash soup, shall we say?
Yeah. It helps that during the end times, Teclis did revive him. He didn't quite forgive him. But when Manfred stabbed Balthasar, and that led to Teclis dying, one of the only connections Teclis had left in the world just vanished into smoke. So between that and the fact that when Teclis found him, it was pretty much his only companion. And also, Tyrion can see through Teclis's eyes. Not his own, but through Teclis's.
That's kind of weird, I have to say.
A little weird, but I don't know, it's kind of interesting, if nothing else. So that's kind of how they're making up on it.
And they're dual gods, aren't they? So they're both gods of the realm.
Yeah. I think Tyrion technically outranks, if you want to say it, Teclis is a deity, but they're both gods.
Okay.
Yeah. And then eventually Sigmar finds them. He finds Malekith. His name is now Malarian because changing his name to Malarian is easier than trying to sue Marvel Comics. Because Marvel also has a dark elf character named Malekith.
Yeah, Thor: The Dark World, definitely everyone's favorite movie, hands down. Best time.
Awful movie or not, no amount of Games Workshop lawyers bullying is going to get Disney to back down. So the Games Workshop chose the route of discretion on this one.
Didn't they try and copyright the word Warhammer? And
I believe they did,
too.
And they also tried to copyright Space Marines.
Even though
I think they tried to copyright pauldrons once too.
Yeah, that's a, you know what I mean? Like someone is smoking something fishy, and I'm over here with my campfire and my marshmallow, eating the remnants of Andy. But that's audacious. Is that why they're called? The only thing I do know is they're called elves, aren't they?
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. You'll notice if you look at the fantasy races, like orcs are Oryx, elves are Aelves, dwarfs are Duarden. I'm calling them what they are. I'm not going with GW copyright crap. It's a dwarf. I don't call it a Duarden if you want. It's a dwarf.
I bet no one calls them by their
no one does.
Their retcon names.
Even the people who love AOS more than fantasy, like it's a dwarf. It's a fucking dwarf. Anyways, though, elf gods are found: Malekith, Tyrion, and Teclis. And Marathi also survived, but she's not quite a god yet. Keep that yet in mind. Alariel too for the realm of life. Malekith was the god of shadow, Ulgu, and Alariel is the goddess of the realm of life. And they're all part of the pantheon too. Not always, in the best of terms, because one of them is Nagash. No one likes Nagash.
Or even now, no one likes Nagash. Even now,
no one likes him. Tyrion might have kind of forgiven Teclis. I don't think he forgave Nagash for eating his daughter.
That makes sense.
But they're doing their best to recreate the world as they knew it and make it better in any way they can. So Teclis and Grugni do their best to bring the mortals of the world up to snuff. Nagash fills out the underworlds and creates places for the dead to go. He also eats all of the other death gods that existed, because there used to be other death gods, and then Nagash ate them, and then there weren't any other death gods. But and like I said earlier, Gorka Morka just beats the shit out of anything that's big enough to threaten them. So for a while, everything is about as nice as you can ever hope to be in a Warhammer setting. There's some small-scale conflict, yes, and there are actually beastmen, the children of chaos, but not in large enough numbers to truly threaten anyone. And indeed, at one point, there's even a Skaven incursion into one of the mortal realms, and the entire Great Clan that invades gets wiped to the last rat.
As they deserve it. But also kind of sad, because the Skaven are the best part of Warhammer Fantasy.
Yeah, well, if we know anything about them, there's always more. So this clan's gone, but that's hardly all of them.
I do want to ask about Skaven Blight, but I assume we're going to talk about that later, because that intrigues me.
I'll bring it up shortly, because we're almost to the end of the Age of Myth. But this is around the time a lot of the factions begin popping up. Some of them might not be active for a while, but the Lumineth realm lords of the Order are actually created around this time, as are the Aiden and the Deepkin. But for a couple different reasons, the Lumineth do not participate in the early Age of Sigmar universe, which for reasons I'll get to. But a lot of the factions have their origins here, in the Age of Myth. This wasn't going to last forever, though, because, as I said it's cyclical. Chaos comes back eventually. Early on, it was dealt with semi-easily, because the gods are all still united. Like I said, the Skaven were wiped, that great clan, down to the man. But they still survived, because good old Thantquil, the Horned Rat's funniest clown.
Yes.
Him and the Horned Rat, who's now the Great Horned Rat and a major chaos god after the end times, just teleported all of Skaven Blight to the warp. They can just do that. They were just like, this isn't the warp now. And then the Skaven, keep in mind, the warp, it's the realm of chaos. It's infinite. Would you agree with that statement, Hal? It's an infinite realm.
The word infinite, it is weirdly enough infinite and yet not infinite, because it makes no sense.
Yeah,
it's even more confusing in 40k, because there are like actual places, and then they're not all in the same timeline. It just doesn't make. If you're new to Warhammer, it just think of the laws of physics. Don't apply. Anything with warp, do not apply.
And speaking of things that don't make sense, the Skaven managed to dig so deeply into the warp from Skaven Blight that they crashed it halfway back into reality. Don't think about that sentence, because I don't understand it.
I think I have a slight theory about that, if I can go into it.
Please.
Which is that I assume you say the realms. I'm guessing, are they kind of like dimensions, or are they?
They're more like planes of existence. D&D, how there's like, the different planes. Like there's the Underdark and...
Oh, so it's kind of like, funny enough, this is going to be a reference to Thor the Dark World.
Oh, good Lord.
The part near the end of the film where they have all those like, there's kind of like those discs of like those portals line up.
I'm gonna be honest. I've never seen that movie, and I
Oh.
never plan on it.
Well, you're the lucky one. Well, essentially, they have. It's a funny enough a similar plot where the realms are all lining up and they want to use a super weapon to basically destroy them all at once. And I assume it might be. Is it like that similarly with the realms in Age of Sigmar, where they kind of they're not like physically near each other, but in a sort of I guess esoteric idea of like being next to each other, they can kind of line up, or they are all connected in a way.
I'd say it's kind of like that, and there are connections between them known as realm gates, which is you go through the realm gate and you enter one realm to another. And sometimes they're, that what you would imagine a big gate of fire takes you to the realm of fire. Other times it's weird things, like if you fall asleep under a certain tree, you wake up in a different reality.
That'll be confusing.
Yeah, realm gates are wacky, as are the realms, but we'll get to the realms a bit later.
Is it like the webway in Warhammer, where they're kind of like wormholes, slash tunnels?
Kind of, but not quite. Like it's a similar concept, but the details are different. Like no realm gate. Like it's not like you go through a realm gate and then you're in the same system of tunnels for every realm gate. They differ between each. Like some are undoubtedly very much like the webway. Others, like I said, you fall asleep next to a certain rock, you wake up in a different reality.
It's meant to not make sense, essentially.
Yeah,
it's a mystery.
It's a mystery, and I think it's helped by the fact it's a fantasy setting, which you don't need to explain things as much. You can just go, it's magic. It just happens.
Yeah, this is not sci-fi. It's fantasy.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm on it. I get slightly confused about how to.
No worries. Hey, the point of this is to explain OS, isn't it? AOS.
I get confused about how to. I guess map it in my head. I think I've said this like just between us two as well, like in our own discussions, like how to kind of I had like a rant about this before where I know what the Warhammer old world is. I know where all the factions are and where everything's placed because I can look at a map, and I think AOS is slightly like I don't have my bearings, if you know what I mean, where it's hard to figure out where everyone is. So, but it's not. So that if there was a map of the realms, it's more of a representation of what they look like rather than where they are actually placed.
Like there is some maps. Like I sent you one now.
I can see it. Yeah. We'll put this in the video for the listeners. But just do you want to give a brief description just for an audio listener?
Yeah, so each realm, like some realms you will find maps, like that actually wasn't the one I wanted to pull up. This is a different map I was going to pull up that I think is a bit better. Like this is a map of the realm of Heish, Light, where the Lumineth are.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
You can find maps of them that are, fairly reliable. But the thing about the Mortal Realms is Games Workshop says they're nearly infinite, which means they are infinite. Like kind of like how in like science fiction, Warhammer, and just sci-fi in general, you can cross a galaxy in 2 days, but crossing a planet takes like 3 months.
Oh, it's so the realms are much more warp-like in a sense. Then they have less rules to them. They're not like a material. They're not like round material world planets.
Yeah, not quite. And when we get to the realms in a bit, I'll explain them a bit more. But each realm has its own rules, but it's not necessarily each realm is just a square or like a circle.
Okay. Well, we'll get to that, I guess, in a bit then.
Indeed. Back to the Age of Chaos. It's creeping in. Early on, they're fought back, but eventually, Archaon finally appears, and the pantheon on top of that begins to fall apart. Yes, it turns out Archaon, by the way, the Chaos Gods just sent him into universes to destroy them every now and then.
So he's like here. This is his holiday destination. And then he's in other realms.
Archaon is just blowing up universes in his spare time between Warhammer Fantasy and AOS. They figured like, well, shit, this guy did it once. Let's have him keep doing it.
Very, very quickly, just how long is the Age of Myth? Is that like
it's one of those
thousands of years?
They
like
left it up to an interpretation. It's definitely not millions, but beyond like I'd say thousands, there's no specific timeline.
I guess
It's up to you to decide, which is kind of a running theme with AOS. It does not like dating things or calendars, which to some point is kind of annoying because it makes like getting into it a little bit harder. But it does have a lot more room for homebrew and creating your own little storyline out of the setting.
But so we do get to the point of I assume then we get to Age of Chaos, and what the reason it's obviously called Age of Myth is this must be
long ago.
This is long. Also, sorry, the Age of Myth must have been a long time for it to be called a myth.
Yeah, it was whatever the specifics are. It was a while ago.
I like that though. That kind of builds into because a lot with AOS stuff, it often appears quite quick. Like it's just snap your fingers and it happened. But in world, it's been around for perhaps even longer than 2,500. The coronation of my boy Karl Franz. Sorry, I had to bring that up.
It's of course always appreciated.
Count of Reichland, supreme emperor,
wielder of Galmaraz, all that good stuff. But yeah, Age of Chaos time. They eventually appear, and the pantheon begins to fall apart. Gorko Morko was the first to leave. He never really cared for civilization building because he's an orc. I guess two orc gods fused together, but same difference as far as Warhammer goes. And what he did, the way he left was he took all of his, the orcs and the alliance, what would become Grand Alliance destruction, declared a Wa across all of the mortal realms, marched across all of them with his orcs and just wrecking shit, and then turned around and did it again.
How did they get orcs at this point? Is that something did they make orcs during the Age of Myth, or did they get them?
Truth be told, the way the orcs appear, I could not find. Some of it would be Gorka Morka probably made some orcs who wanted the boys around. Others, it's kind of like could be like Warhammer Fantasy, where they're just there because they're orcs and you can't get rid of them.
But the black mold in your ceiling.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's got a war axe.
I should also mention that most of the races have different backstories for how they were created. Like the ogres, I believe many of them think that they were created from Gorko Morka's drool, and therefore are representative of his great hunger because they're still very hungry fat men.
Whereas, like in the old world, they're made by the old ones to be more resistant to chaos.
Yeah. So if you want as just a thing going forward, the backstories for these races, you will very frequently find that there are many different backstories that are oftentimes conflicting with each other.
Like lost to the Age of Myth and
the
Age of Chaos is just ruined it.
And it's just become like this is what the people nowadays in the setting think happened. It's probably wrong, or at least only partially right, but there's only so many solid answers to give. That's part of the setting.
But so they've declared the war. Is this at the same time as Archeon, boom, kicks in the door and he's just Doom or the Doom guy coming to like take on some furries, if you know what I mean?
A little bit before Archeon crept in, but Chaos had been creeping in by this point. So Gorka Morka got bored and was like, I want to fight everyone. So he just rampaged across the realms until Sigmar smacked him so hard he split back into Gorkan Mork.
Oh.
And quite the hard hit. And then they kind of centered it around the realm of beasts with the rest of destruction after they're all kind of corralled into there. Next, Alarielle decided to solely focus on defending her realm from Nurgle rather than the mortal realms as a whole, and that'll come to bite her in the ass later. Tyrion, Teclis, Malekith, and Morathi, meanwhile, left the Pantheon to go beat up Slaanesh. Because Slaanesh, unlike the other gods, had glut herself on elf souls and had to take time to digest them all. So she basically hid in a corner. And then the elven gods found her, captured her in the realm between Olgu and Hysh, in this like weird, shadowy light subdimension.
Which one's Olgu? Is that the darkness?
Olgu is shadow, and Hysh is light. So they captured her in this weird sub-dimension between both of those and bound her with these massive pillars.
She's not in the realm of
And
chaos.
chains. Then. She's not. She was taken out of the realm of chaos and locked in this realm. Because while she was digesting the souls, she was defenseless. And while they did, take Slaanesh out of the great game, still other 3 Chaos Gods to deal with. And Tyrion and Teclis and Malekith decided to basically just go home to their own realms and create the elves from fantasy as best they could. Which, on the bright side means they'll get more factions eventually down the line. On the downside, that means 3 of the strongest gods are no longer actively fighting back the chaos incursions that are happening more and more. Grimnir, still dead, still shattered into pieces, so he's not helping. Grungni goes into self-imposed exile as the forces of chaos overrun the dwarf holds in the mortal realms. And funnily enough, Nagash is the last one to leave, which might seem shocking, but on the way out, he basically kicks Sigmar's forces in the balls, so very on brand for him. Betrays them and just stabs Sigmar in the back. And this all comes to a head at the Battle of the All Points, which is called that because, unlike pretty much anywhere else in the Mortal Realms, this is where you can access all 8 of them from one spot. So Sigmar and Archaon take their armies and come to a head. Sigmar throws his hammer at what he believes is Archaon to finish him off quickly. It was an illusion, and his hammer gets lost in the warp. So Sigmar doesn't have his hammer, he has no more allies, and his army is falling apart around him. So he retreats to his realm of Azir, the heavens. And, again, not great. It's called the Age of Chaos for a reason. Ends in defeat, and he calls upon the elven gods to ensure that his realm is completely invisible to the machinations of chaos. And he basically just takes his ball and goes home.
With the pantheon themselves, I'm guessing it's kind of even though I guess it's all mutual benefit, isn't it? They're kind of not really friends, but they kind of are like, the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of situation.
In a lot of cases, yeah. Like Malekith still thinks Sigmar's this stupid barbarian who's playing at God, but he's willing to work with him at least for the time being, at least until it's stopped suiting his interests.
So they were all previously, like you said, when you said he led his armies, I assume this is armies of. So Sigmar led armies of humans, right?
Yeah, he led armies of mortals.
So not just humans then, more like other.
There were elves and dwarves and everything still around, and he would lead them into battle. He was very active, at least early on in the Age of Chaos and Myth.
Are the races quite scattered? Like so it's not just like homogenous in each realm. Is it quite?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And a lot of times, like the Fire Slayers faction, very isolated. They live in their own warrior lodges. But that being said, the great cities of the free guilds, which we'll get to later as they develop in the plot, have worshippers of every god, every race. Like Sigmar is going to be the mainstay there, but you'll find worshippers of Tyrion, Teclis, Nagash, even Gorka Morka. They're kind of all over the place.
So there's quite a lot of people, as in like mortal race. It's quite populous when the Age of Chaos basically wrecks it.
Yeah,
like there's actual there's more. Would you say there's more civilization than there was in the old world at the time?
Definitely is. The mortal realms are larger than planets each individually, and there's a lot more. Part of the reason the elven gods screwed off was because they noticed there weren't as many elves as there should be, which is why they started freeing elven souls from Slaanesh when they captured her. But even with that reduced number from what there should have been, there was still a lot of elves, a lot of dwarfs, and a whole lot of humans.
So that's what you mean by the scale is
way bigger.
That's the part I always struggled with AOS. Was like I always thought it was like the same numbers of like the old world, but again I can see now it's like, this is like this is multiple old world level. Like they're an old world in each of these realms. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's big.
That's kind of cool. There's a lot to explore in the future.
Yeah, it's a lot of room for narrative to be made in. But
Nice.
now the Age of Chaos, Sigmar takes his ball, goes home, and things get worse. The Nurgle invades the realm of life to capture Alariel and turn it into his own.
Oh no, we've seen that before, haven't we?
Yeah, he's Alariel's destined for the jar, I'm afraid.
Elven goddess gets kidnapped. Wow.
Ugh,
oh no.
Yeah, very original. Elven goddess of life at that.
Oof.
The dwarfs held on to their holds for as long as they could, but even that couldn't last, and many of the survivors became known as the dispossessed because they have no more homes. Others fled into the skies and would become the Karajan overlords. More were, of course, the Fire Slayers, I mentioned a bit earlier, who worshipped the dead god Grimnir. They survived through a mix of just being really good at fighting because they worshipped a war god. And on rare occasions, they would even contract themselves out to fight with Chaos.
Oh,
because they're obsessed with finding. Yeah, they're obsessed with finding the shattered pieces of Grimnir in the Urgold. And if Chaos offers a high enough price, they're willing to work with them.
That's kind of cool, actually, because dwarves, no offense, are they're like stubborn goody two-shoes. They're always going to be on the side of good, whereas this is a more neutral, grey kind of thing.
Yeah, these dwarves will do whatever it takes to get their god back.
I like that. When you said the ones retreated to the skies, the Karajan
overlords, as their holds were falling, they built these massive sky ships, and that's how they escaped chaos. They just went to the clouds.
Damn, the old world should have thought about that. That's a way better idea.
And the rest of them became the dispossessed.
Is that a faction on the tabletop? I've never heard of that one.
They're part of the cities of Sigmar, it's called, which is basically take the Empire of Man and add a bunch of miscellaneous models from like the High Elves, the Dark Elves, the Dwarfs, and put them into that soup.
So they're kind of people without a home, or like you said, dispossessed. They're like...
Yeah, they're lacking a home, and they live amongst the people of Sigmar now.
You've seen the first Hobbit film?
Oh, yeah. They're
it's like, like when they get kicked out of Erebor, and they kind of, they wander, but they do kind of gather for certain events. Like... I guess not me. They didn't all gather to retake Erebor, but they kind of keep the connection. That's cool.
A lot like that. This is mostly in the realm of Shamon, or Kamon, however you want to say it.
Shamon.
I don't know, man.
Shamon. Michael Jackson's up above praising our Warhammer video. No.
Good lord! And they fell largely to Tzeentch. The realm of beasts was just constantly attacked by chaos. It did hold out a little bit better than most, though, because the realm of beasts are where all the orcs and such are, and they were just having the time of their lives because chaos. They didn't need to go to the fight would come to them now. So chaos held out decently enough, or I mean, not chaos. The orcs and beasts held out decently enough against chaos. Archaon himself fought Nagash and did win. But he's the god of the dead. He didn't really kill him. He just kind of floated back to his capital and reformed himself.
It's like a Game of Thrones, the Ironborn, that which is dead may never die.
Mm-hmm.
It's like poor season 8. I'm so sorry. Just a flashback to season 8.
But it's like you kill him. Where's he gonna go? He's just gonna go home and come back.
Why can't he die? I've always wondered that. Well, I guess obviously the real reason is money and
the real reason is plot. He's a main character. Although in Warhammer Fantasy, originally he invented necromancy. So if anyone's going to know how to undo death, it's going to be him.
Maybe it's like there's a certain thing where they couldn't kill the Gatan in 40k. It's because they only killed one of them, actually. Fair enough, but it was because the Necron said that they had consumed so much life energy that they had become essentially part of the universe itself. And I wonder if Nagash is sort of the same, where you can't destroy Nagash because he is part of he's absorbed so much. He's the fabric of literally death itself.
It could be part of it, and as I'll talk a little bit about later, each of the gods of the realms are connected to their realm, so that could be part of it.
Spoilers then. Too early.
But even with, you can't really kill Nagash, the realm of death, Shyish lost massive amounts of territory as cults were cropping up all over the place because Nagash is just the worst person to be ruled by, so they figured Chaos can't be that much worse than he is. To the surprise of no one but Nagash himself, of course. That being said, again, he's the god of the dead. It only affected him so much because his forces don't need to eat, sleep, or breathe. So losing someone's home doesn't really matter to the thousands of skeletons Nagash is using to fight.
Don't need to consume Warhammer content. Make sure you like the video, boys, if you're listening.
Yeah.
Total chill, but so's Nagash, so it's fine.
On a map, it would look like Nagash took a lot of losses. In practical terms, he just fortified what he had left with his massive, endless armies and waited for someone else to start fighting Chaos.
I do have a question about the Realm of Death, but I think I'll save that for when we get to it later. But this is... So the Age of Chaos, is this... Like, how long? Is it again, like, it's just considered, like, thousands of years?
A while. It's even... I think even less specific, following after the Age of Myth. It's a very long time, though.
So when they they get crumped, like, say crunked, the official term, so the people... Like, the mortal races and, like, the gods, they are, it's not like is it a quick fall, or is it like this is a pyrrhic, they have pyrrhic victories, but then they just slowly start to just get whittled down, and the dead are in the thousands of thousands?
I personally believe it's the last one, but as is a kind of a running theme for AOS, a lot of it is left rather vague, so you can create your own idea of what the setting is like.
So we can also we can just basically discuss it like what we're doing here then.
Like there's mystery. There's mystery. There's a lot of empty spaces you can fill into yourself.
I like that actually, because like fair enough. I have previously seen it as a negative, but a lot, some things is always, the mystery of it. Like once the mystery is solved, it's like the missing Primarchs, isn't it? In 40k,
yeah.
Like, we're all basically like being, edged essentially for knowing that lore. But I think once we did know,
Lord.
I know, I'm so sorry, but like once we did know like what happened and who the missing Primarchs were, I think we'd be disappointed, wouldn't we? If we're honest.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of it. This is like a nice change where it's like purposely up to you. Again, like also for storytelling, I imagine there's a lot of opportunity. So it's very cool.
I believe the Age of Chaos lasts roughly 500 years.
Oh, so not a quick fall, but still relatively for considering the size of the world, the realms.
Yeah, although that being said, I think this is 500 years after Chaos wins is when it starts. So not like 500 years after they first show up, 500 years after Sigmar retreats into Azir and Chaos just starts running rampant.
God, even then it took 500. Wow.
Yeah. So what happens is Hysh, we just talked about Shyish, death, Nagash losing, but it only does so much. Hysh was just an utter shit show because the Lumineth were very busy recreating the fall of the Eldar.
So the elves are in the light. Which one is Sigmar's realm again?
Heaven, Azir.
Heavens. What's the difference between light and heaven? It's kind of similar.
Heavens is, it's going to sound weird, like lightning, like it's like astronomy or astrology, like looking at the stars in the heavens. Light,
literally heavens.
Yeah, like light is more like literally light, like purifying, bright, geomantic white light.
Okay. So light, the realm of light got messed up.
Yeah, the Lumineth, Teclis and Tyrion recreated the High Elves of old to the best of their ability. And the High Elves then proceeded to recreate the fall of the Eldar, with all of the fun, only without the Slaanesh demons being created. And then the Slaanesh demons showed up anyway, because even though Slaanesh itself was locked away, a lot of her demons weren't. So they had to contend with that. Tyrion and Teclis had to figure out how to save Hysh. And they do manage it, but Hysh is essentially locked off from the rest of the world for a while because they had to fix everything. The only realm that is completely held off from chaos without just locking itself away from everyone else was the realm of shadow. Malekith is indeed the only god to fight Archaon and win. The specifics of this are unknown, as the lore hasn't been delved into with Malekith much. But the suggestion is that either Malekith is one of, if not the strongest god in the setting, or being the god of the realm of shadow has given him some neat tricks up his sleeve.
I think I heard there's only one piece I do know, just from because someone had mentioned it to me, where I think did he fuse with his dragon?
Yeah, he's a scaly now. He's a dragon man thing now.
But can he like inhabit a mortal? Like, can he change his form, or is he like, or the two?
He can become
combined?
like in solid a being of shadow. Whether beyond that or not, I don't know, because they haven't given him much lore.
So he's not been explored yet. Like,
no, the focus has not been much on him yet. He's got a little bit of tidbits, but not much. And as for pretty much everyone else, Sigmar initially allowed refugees to trickle in, but eventually at a certain point he just had to close the realm off and purge any inside who could be vulnerable to chaos, and then got to work on a secret project. During this time, anyone who survived outside of like Azir, Shadow, and any other holdouts basically survived in either highly isolated, highly fortified locations, survived as nomads wandering from place to place to avoid chaos, or they just submitted themselves to chaos. And for 500 years after Sigmar retreated, this was how things worked.
Or just straight up hid and just didn't get caught.
Yeah, they just hid and got lucky. And after centuries of labor, though, Sigmar's plan was as ready as it was going to be. It wasn't perfect, but now begins the Age of Sigmar. I don't think many people call it that in universe. Some people might, Sigmar's worshippers, but certainly not like Tyrion, Teclis, Malekith. They definitely don't call it that.
Propaganda.
Yeah, Nagash definitely doesn't call it the Age of Sigmar. But naming aside, it wasn't perfect, but Sigmar had created warriors that matched even Chaos's most powerful servants. The Stormcast Eternals, or as many people might call them, the Sigmarines, or that the funniest to me is the Ground Marines. Because if you look at them, they're at least in models, if not in like lore, they're Space Marines in fantasy.
I was not impressed initially with their models, as in the original like basic ones of the Sigma Marines. But I think the more recent ones, like the one that they look a little bit slimmer now, and they actually have like more kind of traditional. They're less just big. They're less cosplay Space Marines and more actually medieval armored knights or warrior. So they're like each one's like a warrior king. They look like, which is getting better. I'll just say, and I'm much more into it.
That's fair, though, to be honest, I've always liked them, because anytime something has that golden face mask design, I instantly love it. That's like my kryptonite, to just love a design.
I think the helmet, to be fair, is the saving grace. I think the shoulders is what gets me, just because they're basically like Space Marine pads. But
that's fair, but that was also very much the intention of giving fantasy its own Space Marine iconic thing to look at.
Also, it's an easier model to paint because it's bigger.
And that it'll get in the newcomers like, hey, easy to paint, a lot of flat surfaces. Here you go.
They look cool now though. Some of the, I don't know which ones they are, but the one with the spear and shield, that one is.
I don't remember the unit name, but
I don't remember the name of it, but that one is dope to me. I enjoy that one.
Indeed. But he created them by taking an individual who was about to go down standing against chaos to the last, and spiriting them away from certain death to be reforged with Sigmar's very own strength. And to top it off, they're given weapons and armor crafted from the core of the destroyed Warhammer world that Sigmar was once flying on.
Ooh.
And pretty much without warning, the gates of Azir flung open, and in great bolts of lightning, which, if you ever played Devil May Cry, Bury the Light, I can't help but imagine that playing Bury the Light, I Am the Storm that is approaching, and then thousands of Supermen showed up to beat the snot out of chaos.
It was like, that's honestly the best image ever. Yeah. Where's Virgil? Where is he?
If you look at Stormcast Eternal art, it looks like a walking power metal album cover.
So this was when you said his armies marched out, as in how did he stop them from getting into his realm again? Did you say he'd lock the gates?
Tyrion and the Malekith forged this magical wall around Azir, and I'm sure the Lizardmen, the Slann, who are also in Azir, had a hand in it. That prevented chaos from scrying in.
Oh, so they had no idea this was coming.
No, yeah, Sigmar hard locked the place down, and then killed anyone who might be potentially chaotic inside of it, so they couldn't open the gates.
And the armies of Sigmar, I'm guessing, are huge, right? At this time here, this is the pushback.
He's had 500 years to create them, work on them. He has his own Space Marine legions. Essentially, he's throwing into the fray.
Are they
chaos.
Accompanied by mortals too, or is it just
they are?
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Those on the tabletop, the old fantasy models that didn't get replaced. Of the Empire, the High Elves, the Dark Elves that are formed into one faction. Those accompany the Stormcast Eternals to kind of garrison what they capture and fill in any holes as auxiliaries.
Is the technological state at the time kind of the same as what the old world was? So they're like black powder.
They brought it back up to that, yeah.
Has it been like that for a long time, or is that they reached this?
It was kind of like that for a while, and then the Age of Chaos happened, and it kind of stopped progressing for a bit because Coronate demons murdered everything.
Also, kind of like in 30k, 40k, where like the height of technology was previous epoch, and then they kind of possibly rediscover better weapons at some point.
I wouldn't say the heights, more of it kind of stagnated, because when chaos demons are rampaging across the land, you don't have much time to research, but they didn't lose much. There's certainly a lot of lost treasure and artifacts and stuff scattered about, but it wasn't so much as like they completely forgot how to learn things, so much as they stopped focusing on it and started focusing on what they knew how to do.
Is it much more... I get the sense it's much more magical in terms of innovation rather than like straight up science. As in like, dwarves of science. I feel like this AOS is... So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. As befitting a magical setting, a fantasy setting, it's a lot more magical than sci-fi. Although the dwarves, especially the Kharadron overlords in their sky cities, definitely a lot more science-y. Although what science-y is by the definitions of a fantasy setting, is it science? Is it fake science?
Or is it to the point of when, what's the quote, isn't it? Like, if people don't understand it to a certain level, it can appear like, science can appear like magic, in a way.
That's probably some of it, but also some of it is, no, this is it's just fucking magic.
Oh, what's the, there's a setting, I can't remember which one it is, but like, basically because magic works in the setting, like people don't innovate to a certain level because they're basically over reliant on magic.
Willing to bet you're thinking of Eberron.
I might be that one, I don't know. But I think would you say that's the same thing in AOS where like magic is pretty like they don't make it like a gas lamp, will they? They'll make it like a magical torch. You know what I mean? Like their minds don't think the same way.
It definitely hasn't replaced it. Magic is oftentimes used instead of it, but they're still advancing technology. Like some of the cities in the mortal realms are industrial centers of science.
Oh, so it's like a little...
Like it depends on where you go.
So maybe you could say it's a little bit further than the old world, but like barely.
Yeah.
Okay,
and
that's cool.
if you go to like the Lumineth, their cities, nothing but magical focus. Whereas if you go to the Kharadron overlords, nothing but technological focus. Whereas, the places in between those other realms have a bit of a mishmash. They're varying on the scale.
So now Sigmar's kind of, he's kicked the door down. Imagine Tenacious D. Do you know the song? the song "The Best" by Tenacious D?
The best song in the world?
No. It's just called "The Best."
Oh,
like to be the best, you gotta pass the test. You gotta make it to the top.
Oh, I've heard that. That's probably also playing in the back. That was Bury the Light and Tenacious D.
Yes. So Jack Black's leading his armies across the mortal realms. Sorry, they're mortal realms.
Yeah, the
No,
mortal realms.
I keep trying to say immortal. So
To
is this the end of the Age of Chaos, or is this like
Yeah, this is
Age of
kind of the
Sigmar's
tail
begun?
end of it. Reality itself is beginning to almost break down under the strain of the chaotic corruption going through it, which is why Sigmar did it when he did. His process wasn't 100%, but it was now or never, and the Realm Gate Wars, or what they're known are, begins. Sigmar's objective was to recapture as many of those realm gates that travel between realms as he possibly could, which would not only allow supplies to be ferried back and forth with ease, but for civilization to have a very solid gathering point to form around and regroup. And it was difficult, but though through time and the efforts of the Stormcast and their allies, every realm had some order presence solid once again. And for once in Warhammer, Chaos was on the defensive, not the other way around.
I kind of imagine it like, does this make sense to you? Where imagine it's kind of like they're archipelago islands, and they basically have to land like landing forces, and that's how they kind of take it in a way. But there's no like main land mass in terms of like all the realms together.
Magical D-Day is a very good way to think of the Realm Gate Wars and the Stormcast Eternals busting down the door.
That's way better than my own version. So this is so that the Stormcast, I'm guessing each realm's like forces and the other gods as well.
Yeah, like as the
going
Stormcast are busting their way in and beating the hell out of Chaos, the other realms kind of, if not awaken, then start fighting again. Like Nagash is like, oh hey, we're doing stuff now. Yeah, I'll activate. I'm not gonna, fight on your side against Sigmar, but I'll do things against Chaos.
kind of like Lord of the Rings Third Age with
Last alliance of men and elves.
yeah, kind of like the last. Or was that's like
Kinda.
Second Age, isn't it? But this
Kinda. Oh yeah,
I was gonna say like more like
whatever they call it. I don't remember.
I just mean like the one with Aragorn, like the time Aragorn arrives, in Gondor, it's not the height of their power, and they've been whittled down for ages. And then this is like it's not Gondor full strength, but then it basically just kicks it all off and it renews.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is. And for example, in the Realm of Life, Alariel dies because she just dug into her own realm and was alone, and Nurgle had a field day with the Realm of Life. But she's the goddess of life, so life, death, rebirth, however you want to think about it, she becomes this soul pod thing. And the Stormcast plant her soul pod into the ground, and she's reborn as a warrior queen. And together, her and the Stormcast managed to purge much of the Realm of Life of Nurgle corruption. Not all of it, but enough of it. In the realm of Hysh, the Lumineth, like I said, with Teclis are reinventing themselves and managed to largely purge chaos on their own as well. And the Lizardmen, and I have a story about Lord Croak for you, Hal.
Oh, hit me.
They can now see the future to a better degree than even Tzeentch. So they can now outplan Tzeentch.
That
and
confuses
basically,
me.
Yeah, they're very, very good at what they do now. And some lore suggests that this is their own great plan. Other lore suggests that the old ones of Warhammer Fantasy planned so far ahead that Age of Sigmar was taken into account and planned for by the old ones.
Oh man, that's like that's definitely like I totally was meant to miss that shot because I was meant to get in your head for later on in the game.
And then and now whatever you want to word it as, whatever you want to believe, the Lizardmen now just show up in front of Chaos armies. And it's such a
stupid,
but like the fun kind of stupid, where it's like, oh my god, that is ridiculous. But they'll form themselves into, on their pyramid spaceships, the lightning down into reality. And some of them don't do that. Some of them instead, once they form in reality, they form permanent colonies and terraform the land around Lustria. And there was one battle where in one of these conflicts, the stars themselves formed themselves into the shape of a grinning frog, and the lizardmen beat the absolute hell out of Chaos.
That does make me happy.
And who do you think that grinning frog who did that was?
Praise be Lord.
Praise
Croak.
be Lord Pepe Croak.
On his where he's just, I know he doesn't have it in any art, but he must have a cigar at all times, and he's just like, takes a couple of puffs and he's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna mess your day up. That's all he ever says. It's like he just lightning's in and just takes a puff. I'm here to mess your day up, and it's game over.
Yeah, well, you can say cigar. I prefer tendies for Pepe.
Or a marshmallow, like I have
or
on
a
my stick.
marshmallow, like you've got on your stick.
My power stick, my wand.
It wasn't a complete stomp. For example, when Archaon was like, "All right, I see how it is," he wiped out an entire Stormcast to a man. So the Warhammer Age of Sigmar version of the Lost Legions wasn't, the Emperor had to purge them. It was Archaon was sick of their shit and just wipe them out.
Is he more powerful in this?
Everyone
setting?
is more powerful.
Is he a demigod, or is he?
He is easily a demigod, and indeed, many of the forces of chaos worship him as a god. Some of the Slaanesh worshippers even worship him as a replacement Slaanesh. Because Slaanesh is gone as far as they're concerned. Others view him as just Archaon, another god.
Does he patron the horned rat as well?
Each of the chaos gods, Nurgle, Khorne, and Tzeentch, gave him their blessing, except for the horned rat. When the horned rat went to bless Archaon, he spit in its face.
He spit in his face. The horned rat's
Archaon
face.
spit in the horned rat's face.
Jesus, that's ballsy.
So not only ballsy, but as for the power level of Archaon and the other gods in the setting, that they're able to fight him to some extent, quite high. The power level is definitely over 9,000.
Is this literally like we've gone to Dragon Ball Super and everyone is just
we've
planet
gone
killers?
to Dragon Ball Super where power means nothing and also everything, and everyone has a new form, and it means nothing and everything because this is a war game setting on crack.
I'm sorry, I have to mention the absolute genius who put under the YouTube video of Dragon Ball Super thing that said, if I had ever seen Goku, Frieza, and Android 17 fighting together, I'd slap you so hard it'd make Dragon Ball GT canon.
That's Age of Sigmar. It's off the walls.
Jesus Christ.
And that is the Realm Gate Wars. Chaos is on the defensive. It's and early on, accepting wherever Archaon goes, because wherever Archaon goes, it's kind of a stomp. But aside from that, Chaos is actually losing ground for once, which I fucking love, I gotta say.
How long has the Realm Wars been going on? Or is that unspecified again?
Another thing, unspecified. Though it's long enough to where each realm, aside from Shadow, because Shadow never really got corrupted, was able to regain footholds.
So
it
millennia, most likely.
If centuries, if not millennia, as long as you think it would take. Although, personally, honestly, if you'd like my opinion, I think this took place over a single century, if that. Maybe longer, if you want it to be, but I personally think it was much shorter. I think Sigmar threw open the gates, and then the Stormcast went to town on Chaos.
Makes sense.
But again, up to the individual to decide. That's, as I've said a lot.
Well, to be fair, even saying time probably doesn't work in the same way. They're not all on the same compass, or same clock, are they?
Indeed not. Roughly similar, but gotcha in the... you know what? I'll save that for later. But in one of the novels that I've basically spoiled of who's back, but we'll pretend I didn't. One of the characters, one of the dwarfs, says that you can go 500 days in the realms of Shyish, or like centuries in Shyish, and not a day will pass in the Age of Fire.
Oh, so like so me saying it happened over centuries or millennia makes no sense because it could have.
No,
The war could be finished up in one, and then the other one it hasn't. They've only just
and the
took
other
to their first
it's
step.
barely started. It's barely been a day, but at the same time, it's also been a century. It's weird.
It's still cool though. To be fair,
It's what I think it does really well is it makes it look like the ultimate high fantasy setting, because everything is this grand epic myth in the Age of Sigmar, which, while yes, dating it down and categorizing it is just not happening. It's got its own charm where it's like this is all just this mythic tale, not like a history. It's more like the Greek myths of, Zeus rebelling against Kronos, that kind of thing. Don't go for like, and this happened in 1523 BC, Zeus overthrew Kronos. Go for in the land before, in the age before Sigmar, chaos invaded, and now Sigmar's back, baby. That's kind of how you should approach Age of Sigmar. If that makes any sense.
it does, but in my head it's like a bit mind blowing. So
Yeah, and it does have its downsides, but I think it has its upsides as well. If you want me to give my take on it. But after this is known as the Realmgate Wars, these massive gains by the Stormcast and their forces of order kind of lose steam. It's not that, the Stormcast, it's just like, and now the switch is flipped, Chaos is back on the assault, but it's just more like the Order Blitzkrieg has kind of lost some steam to it. We're not quite at 1945 Germany. We're more at like 1942 Germany.
like once a war loses its momentum, you struggle, and then I guess they'd fortify at this point. Then
Yeah, the forces of order and death and not destruction, because they're not fortifying; they're just going hog wild. But the other, as many people as can, fortify the gains they've made and begin to weather the storm that will no doubt come. And Nagash has decided he's done getting the snot beat out of him, and sure enough, he basically gets half of second edition all to himself to rake everyone over the coals.
did he previously ally himself again with Sigmar here, or did he just like ignore him?
Nope.
When he was
Sigmar,
reconquering.
Sigmar tried to form a truce, and Nagash said, "Up yours, buddy," and murdered many of the Stormcast that went to form a truce.
I bet can he steal the souls of Stormcast?
So,
or did he
funny
try?
thing about that, the Stormcast Eternal reforging process. When a Stormcast dies, their souls, instead of just dying, rocket back to Azir. To be once again reforged by Sigmar.
Is that not? That's really not. When someone dies in Age of Sigmar, I'm guessing it's not normal that the soul returns to. Does the soul do they return to their own realm, or do they all go to the realm of death?
That's, again, it depends on the person. Most of them, which again, I know I keep saying this, but I'll cover when I get to the realm of death. They will go to their own afterlife. The Stormcast Eternal go to Sigmar. They are intrinsically connected with him. That being said, Nagash doesn't like that, because in his eyes, everyone should be gone to Nagash, not Sigmar, or the Chaos Gods, or the Elves. That's not fair. That's not how things work. When you die, you go to Nagash. So he's not a fan of this.
Such is the power of Nagash.
Such is the power of Nagash. Every time you hear that quote, it's like, wow, that's
the only thing that that's the only quote that makes you want to bash my brain against a wall. It's so stupid.
You may say it's stupid. I think the Warhammer 40k villains need to step up their evil villain game, because I hear such is the power of Nagash, and I'm like, well, goddamn, I think I know who's in charge now, and it's definitely not the great four Chaos Gods. It's the Bone Pope.
Such is the power of Pancreas not working. Saying it out loud makes it sound so funny.
But this begins the Soul Wars, and he's done screwing around. He's done getting made fun of. And he creates his Black Pyramid, and then makes a lot more Black Pyramids. Yeah, he's not done. He makes more than one. And then he makes them upside down and flying.
Someone's smoking something, man.
To be fair, you'd think that this meant the Skaven, can't ruin it this time.
They can't dig underneath it.
Yeah, they can't dig underneath it, but things happen. And fair's fair, Chaos Gods themselves show up, actually, to this ritual he plans. Hello, everyone. Colin here. If you're wondering why there's suddenly a cut to this, diabetes happened. My blood sugar decided that it was the perfect time to go to 44, and that's not good. That's actually quite bad. But we're back now. And also, same reason if you're wondering why towards the last couple minutes before this, my thoughts seem to turn into scrambled eggs. Low blood sugar, that's why. So last off, we left before, again, brain kind of started struggling there a bit. I was talking about the Black Pyramid he made again, because yes, he made more. Like I said, made more, and then flipped them upside down, because, what else are you going to do? And he planned to draw all of the magic in the mortal realms into Shyish so he could absorb it and become the ultimate god of everything, really.
I can't believe he's never tried that before. That's absolutely shocking. Yeah, he's almost like he's copied some homework here, hasn't he?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's his own homework, so, can't be that bad, copyright.
It's like going in my own video and bringing back a previous bit of voice work. And then throwing it into a new video and then just not acknowledging it.
Oh, just like, no, this is the original. What are you talking about?
What do you mean? I made it up myself.
But second verse, same as the first, as it were, because the Skaven ruin it again. Because, of course, they exist to make sure that Nagash can never, ever have nice things. And what happens is this, Eve the Chaos Gods themselves even showed up via avatars, because failure or not, this was a pretty big thing he was doing. So what happened was they showed up in their avatars, and Nagash laughed at them. He's like, I'm going to replace all of you. And then they just take turns laughing at each other as the ritual just keeps screwing up. So Nagash laughs at them like, I will become the big evil bad guy and replace the Chaos Gods. And then they laugh at him because the Skaven cocked it all up. And then he laughs at them because he considers even the screw-up to be a success. Because, you know what? He might be an evil, horrible person, but you can't keep Nagash down. So what happened was, though he didn't become all-powerful, the ritual did succeed in a couple things. Namely, it covered all of reality in death magic. All of the mortal realms.
Oh, no.
And this had several symptoms of this issue, we shall say. Them being, one of the biggest ones, especially because it's a tabletop thing as well, endless spells. So imagine, Hal, you're playing like D&D or something, and you cast Fireball, right?
Yeah.
Imagine the Fireball just doesn't turn off.
Oh. That's like a... oh, no.
And it also has an animalistic mind to itself and can move around.
Oh, is that one of those things where, like, someone... hits a baseball and it just doesn't come down. It just rockets into the atmosphere or something like that.
Yeah, except the baseball has a mind of its own, and a lot of the time it's malicious.
Damn, that's
not
good.
Endless spells.
So magic was not cast freely, I guess, or it wasn't cast without thought.
Yeah. Well, maybe at first it was, and then people caught on to the fact that, hang on a minute, every time I cast Fireball, it keeps going. It doesn't stop.
That would be really horrific for certain spells. Like, I imagine, what's the one, like, you can, like Balthasar could turn stuff into gold, but then just won't.
Oh, God,
and then it keeps spreading on the floor, and it's like...
It's like King Midas.
Yeah, like, grab the children, take them out the room, turn them, touch the spreading gold spell. That's
so
bad.
That happened. Worse, the Night Haunt.
Worse?
a kind of a thing. The Night Haunt, the spooky, scary ghost faction, the like wraiths and whatnot.
That shivers down your spine.
Yep. Because they're ghosts, they're empowered by death magic. In places of high concentrations of death magic, they can start rising out of the ground. Problem is, now all of reality has high concentrations of death magic. So across the mortal realms, billions of them began rising and attacking settlements.
Billions?
Billions, with a B.
Oh,
a lot of them.
So actually, this is an actual zombie apocalypse in AOS.
Ghosts, but yeah.
Or basically a undead apocalypse.
Undead, ghost, zombie, whatever apocalypse.
Now that is a storytelling opportunity right there.
Yeah. And on top of that, Nagash unveiled his latest project, and at the time the newest army to Age of Sigmar, the Osiarch Bone Reapers. And if the Stormcast are the Ground Marines, these guys are the Bone Marines. I'm aware.
The fact that you said that out loud,
Look, you look at their models.
They are good though. They are cool.
They look awesome, but they are the Bone Marines.
To our grandchildren listening to this, we did say Bone Marines.
And this was known as the Necroquake, and pretty much every faction, chaos, destruction, order, doesn't matter who, just constant siege by the armies of death. And it only finally came to a halt as Teclis and the Lumineth finally make their appearance on the tabletop and in the mortal realms. Teclis, he's a smart guy. He figured Nagash is going to try some crap eventually. I just know it.
Is he your favorite? I feel like he might be. Him or Tyrion?
Between the two of them? Like,
or do you have a favorite? Because I know you love your...
me elves.
A-elves. Excuse me.
Elves.
You love your elves. So do you have like a favorite character in AOS? Or
Gotrek.
Oh, true. Excuse me. My heresy.
But again, we'll get to that.
But in terms of elves, though, is that Teclis
honestly, probably Eltharion.
Good choice, to be fair. Good choice.
He's pretty awesome. But for the Teclis and all that stuff, Teclis with some help beat up Nagash so hard that he can't form a body outside of his capital city. So good job, Teclis.
How did he do it?
Teclis is a real damn good wizard, and by that I mean he could probably fight Magnus the Red and win. He is OP BS hacks wizard.
How did they invade the realm? Like, didn't they just
realm gate travel?
So I feel like I saw a picture of like a floating pyramid, and I thought, wait, isn't that? I didn't know the elves had like floating things too. I've seen the artwork. That's all I know.
The elves have like some weird crystals, because Heish is all about geomantic stuff and nice smooth surfaces and like geometric stuff. So they all have some weird stuff going on.
So Teclis is just basically Randy Orton slithering out.
Teclis is just going to solve all of the reality's problems. That is his job. So he does that. Teclis does get cursed a little bit, but again, at least compared to Fantasy, he's still doing better than he was there. So,
is it the
Nagash,
curse like the descendants of... Oh, who's the... Anarian, like that kind of curse level?
It's not quite like a bloodline curse. It's more like you have death magic curse. You don't do magic as good, but
so he's a little ill.
He's a little ill, but
like Frodo with the
life.
Like Frodo with the Morgul blade.
Oh yeah.
but then he's not quite needs to be on a horse and whisk to Rivendell level, but he's like, this is cringe.
I'm not feeling so good, Mr. Stark.
Oh no, Mr. Stark.
And so with the Necroquake is almost over, and what happens is Alariel finally does something relevant to the plot, and ends the Necroquake by casting her own version of it that floods reality with life magic instead.
Like kind of cancelling it out.
Yeah. Of course, while this is happening, Be'lakor decides, I'm going to join Age of Sigmar now. I'm going to be part of the plot. And just starts smashing realm gates to flood reality with chaos storms. which has a
Who made the realm gates? I'm wondering that now. Does no one know who made the realm gates?
Some of them don't know. I believe some of the gods might have made some in old times, but I think most of them, if not honestly all of them, are just natural.
Or is it? They're not like actual like stone gates where it's like a little portal in it. They're kind of a bit different.
Some are exactly that. Others are weird, like that dream thing. Fall asleep, you wake up in another realm. It's if you can think of a conceivable like weird fantasy thing and want to make it a way to travel, it's a realm gate.
Oh, is it? So maybe.
On the other hand, if you want it to be a webway portal, it can be a webway portal.
And is it more like maybe the original gates are like the weird tree one, but then people over time have like forged like specific, I guess, doors on the gate, if you know what I mean, to help channel, if you know what I mean. Maybe that's where it came in.
Some could be, because a few wizards are powerful enough to just travel between places without realm gates, but others are again the weird metaphysical whatever the hell. Others are created, but maybe they weren't created by anyone who's still around. It could have been lost to time. It's more the Age of Sigmar. You can let the setting be what you want it to be, kind of vibe.
So when the writers need a realm gate,
when the writers need a realm gate, there is a realm gate.
Fair enough. To be fair, with Warhammer 40k, it's like they need to get somewhere really quickly. Wow, I can't believe that webway portal is still open and it's not been corrupted by chaos. That's shocking.
Or wow, I can't believe the warp travel worked in a way that it was only 1 day since we left.
Yeah, the
writers, 100 years.
The logic of the writer's logic.
It's part of Warhammer. We love it.
It's not meant to make sense. We're playing with our plastic toys as men on the tabletop. I don't know why we're overthinking it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the whole reason we're here. So.
Whatever.
I got this.
But Be'lakor, Chaos Storms, which not only chaos is bleeding into reality, which means demons are going to be a thing. He also destroyed the Slan's future seeing devices. So a lot harder for them to outplan Zeech now.
Also, they made devices, kind of like the tablets, kind of.
Yeah, like the eye Slan.
Oh, okay.
So he broke at least some of them, so a lot harder for them to see the future. And these Chaos Storms had a very bad side effect of preventing Stormcast souls from returning to Azir.
Oh.
I think I forgot to fully mention it. I did mention how Nagash wants all the souls when he dies. The problem with the Stormcast forging process is that when they die, Nagash takes a little bit of their souls each time. He's like, hey, that's mine. So after the first reforging, they start losing their memories. And if it happens enough times, if they die and get reforged enough times, they lose enough of their soul that they eventually become hollow husks, pretty much just filled with the essence of Azir.
So they literally become automatons, essentially.
Yeah, automata of Sigmar's wrath, pretty much.
So also, that's an interesting idea for it, because then it is, in a way, like the bad word where people are in chains, if you know what I mean. Like, they're kind of... Well, I guess their bodies are... They have mortal bodies, technically, but immortal souls, the Stormcast. So their bodies can die.
I think they can die, but they get reforged. They come back. Although I don't know.
A new body is made for the soul.
Yeah.
Okay.
But with this Be'lakor storm going on, well, they're just kind of locked off. So if they die, they get caught by chaos. Not great. So that being said, they do develop measures to counter them. They're not perfect, but they invent a special kind of Stormcast armor who, when the Stormcast dies, it explodes in a cloud of energy so big that it pierces through the clouds temporarily. So that's the response to this. Be'lakor's stuff. Not perfect, but it's something.
So they become like glitter bombs.
Basically, yeah.
Where's Mark Rober right now?
Oh, good lord!
I know he's in the setting helping the Stormcast get back to their home. What a weird sentence. Excuse me. Wow.
And finally, we get to the Heir of the Beast, the last major plots thing happening. Alario's ritual, to go back to that, did a couple of things. Life magic spread throughout all the realms, which, death magic's gone. But it energized the realm of Gur, the realm of beasts, to the point that everyone in it, remember they're mostly orcs?
Mm-hmm.
You cracked up all of the orcs. They're ready to fight now.
Because they got renewed with life. Oh, no.
Yeah, and it also woke up the god Kragnos, who's basically this locked-up god of destruction, who's a god of destruction. So he's going to start destructioning things and just smashing the shit out of things.
He's not an orc. Does he not?
Nope.
Does he look like an orc, or is he?
No, he looks like a beastman. And in fact, when his model was teased, people thought he was a beastman model. He wasn't a beastman model.
Is he? I think I might have seen it. He's a weird like stag centaur.
He's like the
thing?
stag centaur thing that again you look at it and go, oh, that's a beastman model. But no, he's not for the beastman because the beastmen don't get anything nice.
Oh man, poor Taurox, the brass bull. That'd be a sick model, but
that would.
God, that would be like the new Angron model. But someone should convert the Angron model into a Taurox.
That'd be sick.
I could lose it.
But as for Kragnos, Marathi and Lord Croak managed to stop him, but not like kill him. They just kind of trick him into walking through a portal, so he's someone else's problem. Which, to be fair, I think he just warps in front of like a chaos like war camp and just obliterates it. Which, I mean, fair's fair, problem solved, but Kragnos isn't gone, he's just angry somewhere else. And that's usually how people deal with him now in the setting. They send him somewhere else to be mad.
It's like a child rampaging in Walmart, and then you just basically shove him into another aisle.
You shove him in another aisle and walk away as fast as you can.
What's the uniform? Is it blue shirts or blue jackets they wear in Walmart?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Just like you call the blue Marathi and Lord Croak, and there's like the little blue uniforms and shoving him into
there's a Kragnos in aisle 11.
Oh man, I've never even been to a Walmart. So.
And two though, speaking of Marathi, I said she's not a god yet. She's now a god in the setting. Because as it turns out, her faction is called the Daughters of Cain, and their whole religion is Marathi found Cain's heart from the old world and was worshipping it and forming cults around it to revive Cain. Except she lied. She was kind of siphoning all the belief power going to Cain into herself to become a god on her own. And combine this with the fact that she entered Slaanesh on her own and started eating Phoenix King souls.
She entered Slaanesh. Excuse me. What?
Yeah.
Hey, yo.
You're also not going to be a fan of this next sentence I wrote, because while she was in Slaanesh devouring Phoenix King souls, she found Anarian. She found his soul. And she hesitated from devouring him because this is actually really depressing. He was the only person she ever loved.
Even over her son?
I believe even over Malekith.
Damn, man.
And Anarian's response to this was to cut her in half while they were all up in Slaanesh's guts. And her soul was cut in half into a beastly form and a beautiful elven form. But either way, she's a proper god now. She immediately takes over a city Sigmar controlled. They hash out a peace deal, but now order is even more fractured. And as just a last couple peacekeeping things, again, just as a keep in mind, this is not every single bit of lore. It's just been long enough, and there's a lot of lore in Age of Sigmar. So go read up on it as a last couple peacekeeping things before we talk about the realms. Hashut is back. The Chaos Dwarfs. At the moment, they're pretty popular because Total Warhammer had that Treaser.
I know Hashut, the name, essentially.
That is the evil Chaos Dwarf god.
We'll have to talk about him sometime, I think.
We will, but for those of you interested in him in Total Warhammer, or just in general in fantasy, he's back, and so are the Chaos Dwarfs, and he's even got some human followers now. And of course, most importantly, if you are a fan of a certain book series, rejoice, because Gotrek motherfucking Gurnison is still alive in the mortal realms.
Yes.
The world
My
blew up,
man.
and it still didn't kill him.
Brian Blessed is just yelling somewhere going,
Oh, it's great. I started listening to those audiobooks, and it is wonderful.
Oh, no Felix, sorry, I take it.
Oh, no.
Sorry,
He's,
I shouldn't have said anything.
very sad. He's very angry at Grimnir, because as far as he's concerned, Grimnir cheated him out of an honest death. And now he's in this strange world where they don't call dwarfs, they say Duarden. It's actually, in the audiobook, Gotrek makes a point of like, what the fuck is a Duarden? Dwarf. I'm a dwarf.
What do they think of him? Is he a god?
At first they think he's goddamn insane. And then, even worse for Gotrek, he hates Grimnir. Some Fire Slayers think he's Grimnir reincarnated. He just wants to find Felix and his old axe, and they keep thinking he's their god reincarnated. And for a couple of reasons that I'm not going to get into, for spoiler reasons, they might not be that far off the mark. And that really doesn't make Gotrek happy.
Brother's just trying to have a break.
Yeah.
The universe is just nah.
If there's any people who deserve a break, it's Gotrek and Felix, and neither of them get it.
I know, that makes me... That's what the end times... That's the saddest part of the end times.
But that is the plot of AOS for...
Wow, that's a lot to take in.
Really quickly, to cover the mortal realms. Are there any pressing questions?
I think I have a general, quite a good idea now about what's going on. The only question I might have is with Morathi. Where is Morathi? Is she in the same realm as Sigmar, or is she in her own?
So all of the gods have worshippers across the realms, but Morathi's main ones are also in Ulgu, Shadow.
Oh, so she's kind of in. She doesn't have like a home base, I guess, or she's just like she travels around. She gets around, so Morathi gets around.
Morathi gets around, mostly in Ulgu, Shadow, but she has outposts all over the goddamn place.
Other than that, I think I'm ready to learn more about the realms, because I love, especially like in the environmental stuff. That's my jam. I love that kind of description. Hit me. I'm ready.
All right, so there are 8 of them, and they're based on the old winds of magic from fantasy. Like I said, you've got light, shadow, life, death, fire, heavens, metal, and beasts, or amber. Collectively, they are known as the mortal realms, and each of them has a god who embodies that realm, and they're intrinsically linked. So the god's doing good, and the realm's doing good, the god's doing good. The realm's doing bad, god's probably doing bad.
Did the gods forge the realms, or did they just link with these realms? Like when you said the serpent dragon thing at the beginning.
They linked based on their incarnate status in the end times for the most part.
The winds of magic they were bound to.
Yeah, like in the end times, Teclis bound the winds of magic to certain individuals, and for the most part, those individuals became the gods of the new mortal realms. Not all of them, because Balthasar Gelt actually shows back up as a Stormcast Eternal, but he's not the god of Shamon, Common, whatever the fuck.
Shamon.
But
I was going to say then, does that mean, in a way, they don't really, like, it's not really their realm. The realm is just, like, more like part of them, in a way. It's, like, more like inverse, if you know what I mean. Like, Sigmar is heavens, but it's not because of Sigmar that the realm of heavens is like that. It's the realm of heavens is like with Nagash I said earlier, Sigmar's intrinsically tied to the realm itself, so therefore it's more like the realm influences him, if you know what I'm saying.
I think it depends. I think they just kind of got matched up with the fitting realm for them.
It's basically it's a point of view, isn't it? Depends how you feel about it.
That's, which I know in a lot of ways is unsatisfying as a narrative answer, but
or maybe it's just not tackled then. in that sort of
There is also
way.
some of it is mysterious, and some of it is again just Age of also not an in-universe reason, but Games Workshop had these characters and want to kill them off, so now they're the new gods and have been changed around to fit.
I guess also it's technically whatever the truth is, it's in the age of myth, which is again so long in the past that you'd actually have to ask the god like what happened to even know, because no one else would know.
And even then, they might not actually know. Like the dwarf god Grungni, and the white dwarf.
Oh yeah,
They
Snorri. No, not Snorri.
Yeah.
Snorri Nosebite, I think. I have Snorri Nosebite in my head.
The other Snorri.
Yeah, it's the other Snorri.
They actually know each other from the previous world. They know they were both dwarves, but they forgot what their relationship was to each other. So they each call each other grandfather.
Oh,
So like even the gods don't remember everything because things have been going on for so long that even their memories aren't perfect.
so Sigmar's not like, he's still kind of. I guess that's why it's like Greek god, isn't it? They're not like, oh, and then I remembered everything forever, and then I became even more powerful. It's just they kind of stay a similar kind of power.
Like
level.
they do remember a lot of it. Like the whole thing with the Lumineth Realm Lords is Teclis and Tyrion were trying to recreate the High Elves, but a lot of it isn't like perfect memory.
Because
like-
it's just so long.
It's just so long ago.
Okay, that's kind of cool though.
But anyway, as the Mortal Realms themselves, they are that weird chart thing I showed you that's not actually helpful at all.
Oh yeah, the one with
There,
like the
there
spheres.
is some organization to it. So the way it works is death is below all of them. It is the underworld, so it's technically under all of them.
Oh my god, this is Thor the Dark
as
World with all the
planes.
discs.
Yeah.
This is literally. Are they like disc worlds? Where it's literally in Thor the Dark World where they're kind of like discs and they all line up. They're like stacked.
Kinda, yeah.
But
little.
not exactly.
Not exactly. As you get, or pardon me, Azir is above all of them, for it's the heavens, and Olgu and Hysh both circle around the realms, forming the night and day of the mortal realms.
Oh, that's kind of hard to imagine.
Yeah,
But-
it's
but I'm kinda
very
with it.
weird and metaphysical. And in between all of them is what's known as the Aetheric Void, which is basically just pure magic. Do not go there. It is pure, unfiltered, raw magic. Not even like the realm of chaos. It's just pure, unadulterated magic.
Is there
Do not go
no
there.
s-
You will disintegrate.
Is there a sun or a moon?
Hysh is essentially the sun. Although the problem with that is Hysh also has the spirit of its own moon. So there's a lot of weird metaphysical stuff going on.
It's
in Age
one
of
of those things
Sigmar.
where you're not meant to think too hard about it, I guess.
Yeah, it's like I said, Age of Sigmar is structured as a myth. It's one of those things. Do not think about it. It's going to make your head hurt. There's probably not a good answer.
It's not meant to be viewed from an outside like 3D perspective, I guess.
No,
like,
and even I think-
like a map. Saying something has a map doesn't make sense in Age of Sigmar because it won't
Yeah.
be like that forever.
Or even like saying like this Greek myth doesn't make sense. It's not supposed to make sense. It's a myth.
Okay. I'm with you.
So, as for each realm, some common-ish characteristics. Towards the center, the realms are each what you would think like when you hear their name, but kind of to a mild degree. So what I mean by that is in the realm of Akshi Fire, in the center, it's livable, like there's going to be arable land and whatnot, but it's going to be really hot. But as you get to the edge of the realms and closer to that Aetheric Void, it becomes more and more just raw magic and unlivable.
I thought
For
they
example-
are they not technically infinite then?
Not technically, but they're functionally infinite. Games Workshop says they're nearly infinite, which means for narrative purposes, they're as big as they need to be.
So
But there is
most of
theoretically
them-
an end to them.
most of like all the realms is technically uninhabited then, just by pure scale.
Yeah, but
Okay.
they're massive, so
Wow, this is
still plenty to explore.
it's a lot to wrap my head around, but I'm kind of with you. So
And so, like in Akshi, you get closer to the edge, it becomes nothing but magma and volcanic eruptions and just pure fire. until you get to that Aetheric Void.
Oh.
And that's just Akshi.
I kind of get it. So, like, the central part, when you say center, I'm guessing that's near Realm.
Yeah,
Realm
a lot
gate.
of the Realm Gates.
So I'm
There's
guessing
going to be
that's-
Realm Gates even farther out there, but no one's going to go to those because you just die.
I'm guessing that's because when, so quote unquote center, is because with all the other magics, perhaps possibly some of them coming through the realm gates, that sort of neutralizes the ground maybe a little bit. So that's what
That's
makes
actually
it livable.
not a bad theory. I haven't read that, but honestly, that's a really good explanation for it.
It would make, that's the only way I could rationalize it, like, I guess make sense, if you know what I mean. Because I can imagine, I guess all of the magics together kind of cancels out into like a neutral thing. So maybe that's what makes it slightly more habitable.
Not a bad way to look at it. But yeah, Edge, it gets more and more weird as you go. For example, in the realm of life, if you get close to the edge of the realm, you'll find like living rocks and mountains. And if you go too far out, you may damn well fuse with the realm itself.
Oh, that's
Which,
pretty
rather unpleasant.
Are all the, so you said the fire realm and the life ones here, they're not just super homogenous though, right? So when I say fire, there's like, it's not all volcano. There's sometimes like deserts and...
Yeah, like it'll be like deserts or stuff like that. And in the realm of life, like, you know, it's not all just like pure jungle, super lush.
Could be
tropical
oceans,
rainforest.
swamp,
it could be oceans, swamp. It could be like grasslands and super vibrant plains.
So they're quite varied, like even within the realm.
Yeah, even within a single realm, there's all sorts of different terrain.
But there's a general tone, like the rock in the fire one is like, it's usually volcanic rocks and...
Yeah, like there'll be themes, but like any variety you can think of using that theme will exist somewhere in the realm.
I'm guessing also the plants and animals are similarly themed as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's like salamanders. Like, is that for like all the realms? Like you wouldn't find like, you would only find kind of fiery, like, you know, desert, maybe animals in the fire realm. You wouldn't really find, or maybe you would find something similar in the life realm, but then it's just a much more plain and it's not less, it's more lifelike rather than fire.
Yeah, you might find some similar, and maybe on rare occasions some beasts might somehow travel across the realms, but for the most part.
Oh yeah, true.
But yeah. And just for some more general weirdness, in the realm of beasts, the entire realm down to the crust is alive. So, like the realm of beasts, because it's the wild, untamed realm, whole thing is alive. Like the continents are creatures.
Some of them are much more, I'm guessing some of the realms are much more paired, if you know what I mean. Because I'm thinking of, because when you say that, I think of the life realm. But I'm guessing like there's a thing where like obviously shadow is related to death, light is probably related to heavens in some way. Or is it like they have more similarities, if you know what I mean. Like they're more
they have more similarities, but they're still distinct.
Oh, okay.
And I was actually going to talk about Shyish. You were talking about that earlier.
Oh, with the realm of
the realm of death works. Yeah, Shyish, death.
I was just going to quickly say with the realm of beasts though, what does it look like? Because I just, when you say it's all alive, I don't. Is it just rock or is it?
Oh, it's rock and everything, but the rocks are all these colossal continents that are each alive.
Is it just like filled with animals? It's like a wild
It's filled
zoo.
with. Imagine if Katakan was a universe, and also Katakan itself was alive.
Oh my god!
And that's the realm of beasts, and also cover the entire thing in orcs and ogres.
Is it again got like volcanoes and like it's a bit?
Yeah, there'll be some other stuff like that occasionally, but it's just
the whole realm feels alive in a different kind of way.
Yeah, like in a way even beyond like there are spirits in each realm. Like Gerd, the realm of beasts itself, is a living thing.
That's cool though. I like that.
It's each setting or each realm is almost its own setting. As for Shyish, just a little neat little thing. Each civilization, because there are many civilizations in mortal realms, has their own underworld in Shyish. They all kind of coexist near each other. And the way it works is when a civilization is still alive, its underworld is still around. And when a civilization is destroyed or just fades away into history and its culture is lost, that underworld will fade away and the souls inside will fade into nothingness.
I'm guessing Nagash doesn't let something like that slip his notice. I just got a feeling about that.
It's kind of something he can't stop, but most of his Mortarks, his lieutenants, his soldiers are immune to it. And the thing about a lot of undead and Warhammers, they don't have a soul. Like a zombie or a skeleton doesn't have a soul in it. It's just animated by death magic. So, and if Nagash takes the souls and stuffs them into something, they don't fade away as their afterlife fades away.
The only brief bit I know about the undead stuff is there's the model like Katakros, the that the kind it's like the almost like the samurai looking one. I don't know, like the barest bones about like a story of his, which was that Nagash invaded his like realm of undead and recruited him. That's literally all I know. But there's something about that.
Like there's different different afterlives, and Nagash is overlord of all of them because he ate all the other death gods.
Damn. What's
wild.
the realm itself? Is it mostly just like
there are places where there are living people there. Like people live side by side with other people's like ancestors and spirits.
Yeah, but like, is it like Chicago? The entire planet. Sorry for if you're from Chicago.
No, it's probably nicer than Chicago.
Wow, that's
Nagash at least keeps order.
Damn. Is it kind of again like mountainous, or is it what's like the general kind of tone of it? It's just is it a bit like kind of spooky forest?
Spread a spooky ghost forest across an entire plane of reality.
So kind of there's smoke and there's like burnt trees
and there's
stuff.
Fog and dead craggy burnt trees, and it's just the worst.
But people live, but mortals live there.
Yeah,
idiots.
Like they can live there. Well, I mean, to be fair, when you're born there, you don't have much of a choice. Not everyone has access to realm gates.
I guess they probably choose to live closer to near the realm gate part
if they can help it. And one last thing, because I just want the realms really should know they're weird and do their own things. In life, there's these things called life quakes. So imagine walking down the street, Hal.
Mm-hmm.
You're now pregnant.
Oh, that's not where I thought I was going.
Gender is not a factor in this, so good luck out there, gentlemen.
Oh, okay.
The realms are weird.
That is not what I thought when you say a life quake. Yo, what the hell? That's slightly terrifying. That's quite terrifying, I have to admit. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, the mortal realms are weird.
Who wrote that? I wish one of the writers.
I have no idea.
Someone is just huffing something. Lord, what's the Is this the life one you said? The life realm?
Yeah, in the realm of life.
Damn. I wonder if that makes it the worst one then, because it's just like the fucking life realm without my consent. Jesus Christ. Ugh. Oh man.
And to really quickly just summarize what the Grand Alliances are, not going to go into every faction because we'll be here for another 3 hours. But just really quickly, last bit. We have Grand Alliance Order. Not quite the good guys, but they're the ones who just don't want everything torn down or turned into zombies. They're mostly the old Pantheon members who didn't betray Sigmar so much as just kind of leave. Destruction, the next Grand Alliance, they're led by Gorka Morka and or Gork and Mork. You know, the orcs, the ogres, the goblins, all those stuff that just want to fight and just are nuts and want to just get in a good old fight and eat all the time. There's Death, led by Nagash, who, again, Death, he's not changed at all from Warhammer Fantasy. Still wants to kill everything. Still wants to rule over an unchanging world of static death. And there's Chaos. It's Chaos. It's the same as 40k. It's the Chaos Gods. Although the Skaven are a part of Grand Alliance Chaos too. Because they had to fit in somewhere, and that was the only place that would take them.
I think they fit in quite nicely because they are chaotic. in nature.
I get it, but I cannot. I do not think the Skaven should be a part of anything. I think they should be the Skaven, their own race of assholes.
To be fair, it sounds like the rest of Chaos kind of rejects them anyway. So
Yeah, they're not exactly best friends with anyone. It's more so, well, the Horned Rat's here now, and he has so many followers, it bloats his power level to be more or less equal to us, so we just have to accept this now.
he's kind of like the Broly character of it. He's just like he's a
I
little
don't think
bit.
the Horned Rat's Broly.
Oh, who would you say he is?
Giving him a lot of credit.
True. He's
I don't
not.
know if I can compare him to a Dragon Ball Z character. Maybe Frieza.
Actually, that's
That
probably
he
better.
keep
Yeah,
killing him, but he doesn't go away.
it keeps betraying every time. What do I expect? Now he's gold Freezer.
Golden Horned Rat.
My he slaps you with his fucking pimp gold rat. Pimp golden horned rat. Damn.
But that rambling, disconnected explanation was Age of Sigmar. This is as you might have noticed, didn't cover everything because this is an entire war game setting. I tried to sum up. There's a lot.
Yeah, we did a lot. That was
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I kind of have a much better understanding of it. Was there also one more realm than metal? Was there a metal realm too?
Yeah, that was the
I'm guessing-
Shamon.
Shamon. Is that one quite is that one mysterious then I take it? It's just metal.
It's not as explored, although it's a lot of metal. It's same as the other realms, closer to the middle. It's like you'll find a lot of ore deposits and whatnot, but it's livable. Towards the edge, you'll find everything's made of some pure metal or other rare gems are all over the place. Metal magic
That's like in my head. I'm imagining a literal mountain of gold, like an
Yeah.
actual mountain. That's cool.
The Emperor would be very happy with the realm of Shamon.
That's a hell of a sentence.
Unfortunately, he's not coming to the mortal realms anytime soon. I can't imagine.
That'll be a plot twist.
Aside from that, only one last thing to mention. When Galmaraz was reclaimed by the Stormcast Eternals, it was given to the Celestant Prime, the first ever Stormcast Eternal Sigmar created, who simply needed one last thing to finish him off. And when Galmaraz was reclaimed, he gave it to the Celestant Prime, who was forged from a king of an old kingdom in the old world that Sigmar once ruled. I think you know where I'm going with this. The Celestant Prime is fucking Karl Franz. It's never been confirmed. They just say he's an old king from the old world. Don't care. It's Karl Franz. No one else is badass enough to be the Celestant Prime.
Emperor, Elector Count of Reichland, son. Was he Prince? Sorry, Prince.
Prince and Elector of Reichland.
Excuse me, my heresy.
He is Prince and Emperor.
That's a privileged bastard.
And yeah, that is Age of Sigmar, to just scratch the surface.
I loved it. That was a lot. I think I have a good image in my head of kind of what's going on. I definitely think, obviously it's an overview, but like I always struggle with what is like I guess the ground level experience of that universe, because it's just so big, even in terms of scale, and like obviously it's high fantasy now, so it's a bit different. But I feel like I've got a good, like if I was to make a story or like in my head, I think I know. I could place it appropriately in there, and it would actually make sense in the universe. So
Yeah, and
that's really cool.
There are a few named cities that show up different. Like there's Hammer Hall, which is one of the biggest cities formed in the mortal realms after Sigmar sent out the Stormcast. There's Anvilgard, which is the city that Marathi took from Sigmar. The L Points, which is currently under control of Archaon, but everyone keeps fighting over it. There's a couple different places you can kind of ground yourself in, but part of the appeal I find is just losing yourself in it and just approaching it not as a solid story, but as this mythic tale of massive fighting armies and whatnot.
As we'll end it, I think hopefully we might do another in the future. We may possibly explore in more detail some of the factions within the Alliance orders themselves, I think. So we may go may go into more detail, and or we may possibly talk about some dwarves, chaos dwarves stuff, because love. I think I'm very curious about Hashut. But I will end on. I'll ask you a question, which is, who was your favorite faction in AOS? Like who you collecting, and why they're your favorite?
At the moment, probably the Lumineth, because I love my elves. They're quite, they're high elves. I love them. Teclis is a model. That's something very nice about AOS. The gods in the setting, play them on tabletop. They're very powerful.
Is he T-posing?
He is T-posing. He's flying and T-posing on the lesser beings before him.
Nothing wrong with that. It makes it even better.
Although, of course, that being said, the Skaven, probably still my favorite overall in Warhammer, because I love my bad rats. Thanquol is still kicking.
Why are they your... We'll just finish on why they're your favorite specifically. Like, what makes them so good?
Because I just love how they're the worst. Like, like the word bearers, they're all awful, but every now and then you'll get a character like, Argyltal. Argyltal, thank you. Every time I say his name, it's like gargling dice.
If you hit just a major kill too much, I think you'll start to... I think he's pronounced it multiple different times, and so I'm like, which one is it, bro? I'm struggling. Yeah,
Argyltal will go with. Like, you'll get a character like him who's like, you know what, he's almost a redeemable character, almost not a piece of shit. With the Skaven, you don't get that. They're just the worst, and it's so fun. Like, you're playing mad scientist evil rats with machine guns made out of lightning in a fantasy setting.
The voices are so funny, too.
They're amazing. Like, the Skaven, when you want to be an irredeemable asshole, not even just a monster, yes, but more than that, just a prick, you go the Skaven. And I think that's very fun, because I think it's just funny.
Thanquol every day.
Thanquol is a joy to read about.
We have to do a quiz on him. We have to do something on verses on that. We have to do something with Thanquol, because it's just, there's no way we can't spread the love of this absolute failure of a...
I haven't gotten to it yet, but he and Gotrek evidently have a duel in Age of Sigmar.
Oh, yes.
And I'm very excited to get to that point of the audiobook, because, oh boy, is it going to be something. I know Thanquol is quite unhappy when he finds out Gotrek survived. As is Gotrek in reverse.
I still remember that part in one of the Gotrek books where he's like, you've been sabotaging me forever. And they're like, who are you? And he's like, he almost like faints because he thinks
his ego is so bruised he almost passes out.
He thinks they've been sabotaging him for 20 years and they have no idea he was the same rat the entire time.
If nothing else will bring you to that, Thanquol is still at Age of Sigmar up to his old BS. So you know what? If nothing else will bring you to the setting, let Thanquol do it. He
is the epitome of you failed successfully.
He is still the horned rat's silliest clown fighting his funniest battles.
And we are your silliest clowns presenting this video. Thank you so much for watching. Our Law Criminals. Make sure to like, subscribe. It really helps us out. Really helps the channel.
And please let us know what you'd like to see next. Fantasy Fireside, always kind of more of a relaxed, just talk about fantasy lore and whatnot. So if you'd like to see some AOS stuff, let us know. If you'd like to a return to fantasy, also let us know that. And we'll see what's going up next time.
Thank you all. Also, thank you all so much for listening, though. We really appreciate it. And
very much so.
We'll see you all next time. Have a good one.
Take care, everyone.